Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life Ministries. Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and I am going to do the Torah portion for this coming week, and we are in Leviticus. We're in the 25th teaching of the Torah portion cycle. We're in Leviticus, and this week we're going to be doing Leviticus 6:1 to 8:36. And we're also going to talk a little about the Torah portion this week, because in Jeremiah there's some good, interesting information that relates to this week's Torah portion. So this week we see Yahweh telling Moses more instructions about the sacrifices, about what's to be done and how it is to be done. But remember, the children of Israel have already left Egypt, and they've been in the desert for quite a while right now. And now, finally, Yahweh's given Moses the instructions of the sacrifices and building the tabernacle and everything else. He didn't just give that to them immediately when they left Egypt. He waited because he wanted something to happen before he gave them this information. He wanted them to be prepared for the sacrificial information, the burnt offerings, and so on. Now, this week's Torah teaching is all about the sacrifices, the burnt offerings, and the priests, and what they're to do, and how they're to do it, about who they're to sprinkle, and what they're to sprinkle, and keeping the fire lit all the time, and how. Now, there's significance to all these things. But the important point to remember, everybody, is he didn't say, to do these things immediately when they left Egypt. The first thing he wanted them to do was he wanted them to understand how to pay attention and to listen, and how to have a heart for him. And that's what he wanted to do. Before he gave them all these other instructions, that's what he first did. And that's what he wants for us, everybody. He wants us to understand how to truly worship him and listen to him and obey him. So it's about paying attention. He told Moses over and over again in previous Torah readings that we've done, tell the people to pay attention to what I'm saying, to pay attention to the words and the instructions I'm giving them, and how to take action to make these things happen. And then when the people hopefully and prayerfully got into that mindset, he was able to give these other instructions. But folks, what happened? The people still didn't listen. They still didn't get it right. We see this week him giving instructions to Aaron and Aaron's sons, the priest, of how they're supposed to do certain sacrifices. But we see Aaron's sons later on, how they actually perished because they didn't follow the instructions that Yahweh told them to follow. You see, Yahweh doesn't just tell somebody something and they suffer the consequences immediately if they don't do it. Over and over and over again he tells them, and he shows them, and he sets the example. But then finally, if you don't do it, time's running out, folks, and destruction will come. But he gives us chances over and over again to get it right. And that's what it's about this week. There was a lot of talk this week about the word holy in the Torah portion. It says it over and over again. Holy, holy, it is to be holy. This oil will make that holy. These sacrifices will make that holy. This is the holy way to do things. A lot of people don't really understand the word holy, what it truly means. The word holy, it's not about good or bad or right or wrong. What the word holy is about is set apart. That's what it's about, because when something is set apart, it's different than the normal. So we have to be holy for Yahweh, set apart amongst the normal people and the normal thinking of the world, set apart for him, to be holy for him. That's what we have to understand, folks. People could say something's good or bad depending on how they feel, or good or bad depending on their emotional state, or something like that. Again, folks, it's about what is holy to Yahweh, what is set apart for him. We have to be a set apart people. He's given us a set apart message. We have to be different than the norm, different than the world, set apart from the world. It says, do not conform to the standards of this world, but make your mind and your heart be of Yahweh, so you can think like him, and then he will show you what his perfect will truly is. Now, folks, I'm a health teacher, and I teach a lot about diet and foods and things like that. And in Leviticus, and also later in Deuteronomy, we're going to see the exact foods and instructions that Yahweh gave us according to our diet, and what they should be, what we should be eating, and when we should be eating it.
But I find here, as he starts giving us these instructions about what we should eat, some interesting things in this week's Torah portion. The first thing I find is he says in Leviticus 7, I believe it's 7:18, he talks about the sacrifices of meat for the peace offerings, and he says that on the third day, any meat that wasn't eaten is to be destroyed because it becomes disgusting and is no longer good. Well, that's a very interesting thing, because I know from just eating a healthy diet and lifestyle is we want to eat things as fresh as possible. Whether it's a vegetable meal or a meat meal, we want to eat it as fresh as possible. Now, I know meat will become rancid and putrefy much quicker than vegetables will, but even vegetables should be eating as soon as possible so it's as fresh as possible. But here he gives us this instruction about meat, saying on the third day anything that's left over is to be burned and not eaten. Because there's many reasons behind this, but I'm sure one of the reasons is to understand, and one of the reasons he gives us his instructions is to keep us healthy in all his guidelines, and to say, okay, I'm not going to eat any food, especially meat, that's left over for longer than 3 days, because it no longer has those nutrients in there that my body could use. And make it worse, when it's meat, sometimes if there's parasites or anything like that, that can manifest and grow inside the product and create even more problems in the body. So there's reasons for everything in the scriptures, and I just think it's great advice, and I would recommend nobody eat any leftovers, whether it's meat or even vegetables that are left over longer than 3 days. Eat the food as fresh as possible to get the most nutrients as possible from your food. He also goes on to talk a lot about this week about grains and bread and things like this, and people will say, well, what's wrong with bread today and even grains today? I assure you, everybody, the grains and the bread today is completely different than what they had during these times, because of man's hybridization of the seeds and the processing of the flour. It's just become an unhealthy food today. And also he tells us to have unleavened bread. And there's many significant points to the word leaven and unleavened and what this truly means, but at least from a diet standpoint, unleavened bread would not be bread that rises. And we have today a lot of people, when they partake in bread, they're taking part in leavened bread. But he says unleavened bread, which we're commanded to do actually during the Feast of Passover, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, for a whole week to eat unleavened bread. But during the sacrifice it was about unleavened bread as well. So we see all these different things here. Now, some people want to debate or question the point of should we be vegetarians or should we eat meat? And I talk a lot about this in many of my other teachings. And there aren't too many places in Scripture where we're commanded to eat meat. It says during the Passover that we should partake in a Passover lamb. But it does say here in this week's teaching, Aaron and his sons must partake in some of the meat that was left over, because it was set apart for them. So that is another place where it says that Aaron and his sons, or the priest, can have some meat. But folks, you can be a vegetarian or you can eat meat. If you're going to do it, though, just do it according to the instructions that it sets out in the Torah. And we're going to be seeing here in the future readings of Leviticus and later on in Deuteronomy exactly what meats to partake of that are clean, holy, and set apart for people if they decide to eat them, and also the ones that we definitely need to avoid throughout all our generations if we want to be set apart for Yahweh. Now, if you want to be a vegetarian, you can absolutely do it, but you got to make sure you're getting good quality food, good quality produce. The vegetables and the fruits have to come from good quality soil. Organic, ripe, raw, fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds should be the majority of your diet if you're going to do that. Or learn about supplements and take supplements to make sure you're meeting your nutritional needs so you can have great physical health. So we also see this week in a half Torah in Jeremiah, it goes on to say just what we've been saying. In Jeremiah, it goes on, Jeremiah 7:21, it says, Yahweh says, you may as well eat, in his anger he says this, so remember that, in his anger he says that, you may as well eat the meat of your burnt offerings along with that of your sacrifices, which originally he told them not to do. He told them not to eat these things. He says, "For I didn't speak to your ancestors or give them orders concerning the burnt offerings or sacrifices when I brought them out of Egypt." You see, he did give it to them when they were already out of Egypt in the desert, but not on the way out, because he wanted them to understand how to listen and obey first. And it goes on to say in Jeremiah 7:23, "Rather, what I did offer them was this: pay attention to what I say, then I will be your Elohim, and you will be my people. In everything, live according to the way that I order you, so that things will go well for you." Everybody, if I'm looking at the scriptures, I mean, Genesis 1:1 is pretty powerful. But if I had to sum up the scriptures in one way to sum it up in one verse, I like that right there. It says here in Jeremiah 7:23, "Do what I order you to do. Pay attention to what I say. Then I will be your Elohim, and you will be my people. In everything, live according to the way that I order you, so that things will go well for you." I can't think of a better way to sum up the scriptures than that right there, everybody. That is so powerful. I'm going to read it again, because they say if you say it 3 times, it sticks for you. It says in Jeremiah 7:23, "Rather, what I did order them was this: pay attention to what I say, then I will be your Elohim, or I will be your God, and you will be my people. In everything, live according to the way that I order you, so that things will go well for you." Now that is great advice for life, folks. If you want things to go well for you, follow the instructions and the guidelines exactly the way our wonderful Creator told us to follow them. You know, the sad truth is what it says after that in Jeremiah 7:24. It says, "But they neither listened or paid attention, but lived according to their own plans, with their evil hearts." And even today they do the same things. And this is why destruction happens among them, because they are stiff-necked. That's the way many people are today, folks. But we are called to be holy and set apart for Yahweh. And we can be. He gives us the instruction guide to make this happen. We have the information. Are you following the guidelines and instructions found in the Torah? Do you even know what they are? Folks, it's time you started getting right with this, so things can go well for us. So we can have the energy, the health, the time, the heart, and the passion to spread the good news that He's brought amongst us. The news of Yeshua. Alright, everybody, that's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries in this week's Torah Parashah. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below the videos. We're really excited about these Torah Parashahs, and also your comments and questions I answer every week. Until then, everybody, have a great day, and have a wonderful Shabbat, and we'll see you again soon here on Torah Life Ministries. Shalom, shalom.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways.